For 6 years, I lived as a full-time housewife, or at least that's what people thought. In truth, it felt more like serving time in a home I no longer recognized. Each time I asked my husband, Mike, for money to cover basic needs, it felt like I was begging a stranger for mercy. He'd toss me $1,500 a month and act as if he were handing me a fortune. One morning, I finally reached my limit. I stopped cleaning, I stopped cooking. I even refused to look after his wheelchair-bound mother, Susan. When Mike came home that evening to chaos, I simply told him, "You can take care of your mother and your daughter yourself for a while." The silence that followed was louder than any argument we'd ever had. But independence doesn't come cheap. My account balance was nearly zero, yet my pride kept me from crawling back. That day, I texted him, "Hey, are you busy? It's time to transfer this month's expenses." The message disappeared into the void, no reply. Moments later, my little girl tugged my sleeve, eyes wide with excitement. "Mommy, can we get cake today?" I knelt beside her and whispered, "Sweetheart, not today. Let's wait until Daddy sends money." She nodded quietly, far too mature for her age. The way she accepted disappointment shattered me. We weren't poor, not even close, yet I couldn't afford a slice of cake for my child. That irony stung more than poverty ever could. After another unanswered message, I tried mentioning Annie in my text. This time, Mike responded with an irritated voice note. "Got it. Stop nagging, I'll send it later, relieved." For a moment, I started dinner, trying to convince myself things would get better. But halfway through cooking, Annie began vomiting violently. My heart nearly stopped. I rushed her to the hospital, only to realize that Mike still hadn't transferred a cent. I stood there, clutching my daughter, unable to pay for her treatment. When I finally called him, his voice snapped through the phone like a whip. "Didn't I tell you I'm busy? You're like a debt collector. I'll send the money when I have time, stop bothering me." Then the line went dead. Tears blurred my vision as reality settled in. The man who once promised to protect me now treated me like a nuisance. How had love turned into this cold transaction? That night, as I held Annie's trembling hand under the hospital's harsh lights, one thought echoed in my mind. Something inside me had finally broken, and there was no going back. Rehook. But I didn't know yet that the moment I decided to stand up for myself would soon turn our entire home upside down. The night at the hospital changed something in me. Watching Annie sleep restlessly beside me, I realized I couldn't depend on Mike anymore. Once I believed we were partners. Now I was just an unpaid servant, trapped in a loveless routine. When we first met, Mike was charming, ambitious, confident, the kind of man who could talk his way through any door. I left my job after our marriage at his request. He'd said, "Stay home, take care of Mom. I'll take care of everything else." I trusted him. I believed his promises. For a while, he kept them too. In the beginning, he would proudly hand over his entire paycheck each month. But soon, there were excuses. "It's for business dinners. I need to entertain clients. My boss expects me to pay for drinks." Little by little, my control over our finances vanished. Eventually, he took back the salary card entirely. That's when the allowance began. First $4,000, then $3,000, and eventually just $1,500. And even that, he'd delay as if he were doing me a favor. The next evening, after returning from the hospital, I walked into our house and was immediately greeted by Susan's sharp voice. "Where have you been? It's late and dinner isn't ready. You worthless woman, my son works all day while you sit around." Her words used to cut deep, but not anymore. I had learned that no matter what I did, it would never be enough for her. I silently helped her into her wheelchair, refusing to respond. When Mike finally came home, I tried once more, though every word felt heavier than the last. "Mike, can you transfer this month's expenses? I need to buy groceries tomorrow." He looked up from his phone with a smirk. "You women have it easy. You don't work. You just wait for men to hand you money. Do you have any idea how hard I work? His mother immediately backed him up. Exactly. My son isn't made of gold. You should be grateful you get anything at all. My hands trembled as I set the table. $1,500 doesn't even cover the basics, Susan. Groceries, bills, Annie's snacks. Enough! Mike slammed his plate on the table. You're greedy. Always complaining. Each word landed like a blow. I'd swallowed years of humiliation, but this time something inside me refused to stay quiet. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You think I should be thankful for scraps? You've turned me into a beggar in my own home." The air in the room turned heavy. Even Susan went silent. Rehook. That night I decided, if they wanted to see what life looked like without me holding it together, they were about to find out. The next morning, I woke up with a strange calm, the kind that comes after a storm. I wasn't angry anymore, I was simply done. I made breakfast for Annie and myself. Nothing fancy, just toast and eggs. For the first time in years, I didn't prepare anything for Mike or Susan. As I poured Annie's milk, I said softly, "From now on, Mommy's going to take care of you, and only you." When Mike came downstairs and realized there was no breakfast for him, his face darkened. What's this supposed to mean? I met his glare without flinching. It means I'm not your maid anymore. I'm not doing the housework, and I'm done taking care of your mother. Susan's shrill voice pierced the air. You ungrateful woman, who do you think you are? I turned to her slowly. I'm someone who's finally tired of being treated like dirt. You've never thanked me once, Susan. Do you know how much it costs to hire a caregiver for someone in your condition? At least $3,000 a month, and I've done it all for free. Mike's jaw clenched. You're being ridiculous. Stop this nonsense and clean up. I'll give you $3,000 this month. Just behave. I almost laughed. Keep your money, Mike. I'll earn my own. For the first time, he didn't know what to say. He stared at me as if I'd grown wings. But it wasn't courage, it was exhaustion. I was done begging for respect that was never coming. That night, he tried to bribe me again with another check, $3,000 this time. Come on, Mandy, don't make this a big deal. Just go clean up after Mum and stop being dramatic. I handed the check back without a word. He snapped, Fine. You want to play tough? Don't expect another cent from me. Perfect, I said, shutting the door in his face. For once, I meant every word. The next morning, Susan screamed from her room for breakfast. I didn't even look her way. I told Mike I'm done, I said coldly. Ask your son to take care of you. You're his mother, not mine. By noon, the house was chaos. Dishes piled up, Susan complained non-stop, and Mike struggled to manage both her and Annie. He looked lost, exactly how I had felt for years. As Annie and I sat eating our lunch peacefully, she smiled and said, Mommy, you were so brave yesterday. I kissed her forehead, feeling tears well up. Maybe for the first time, my daughter saw me not as tired, but strong. Rehook. But little did I know, my fight for independence had only just begun, and Mike was about to make a mistake that would change everything. After days of silence between us, I started planning the next chapter of my life. If Mike thought I couldn't survive without him, he was about to be proven very wrong. I dressed neatly, tied my hair up, and went out searching for a job. It had been years since I'd last worked, but I still had skills, real ones. Managing a household, caring for a sick parent, organising chaos. Those weren't small things. I walked into 2 domestic staffing agencies that day, and both seemed impressed. They told me they'd contact me soon for trial work. For the first time in years, I felt something new, hope. Meanwhile, Mike was struggling. Without me, the house was falling apart. His mother's yelling echoed through the neighbourhood, and Annie's needs kept interrupting his work. The next morning, I brought Annie to Mike's office. When he saw me walk in, his face turned red. What are you doing here? You can't just show up at my workplace. I smiled calmly. You said we should share responsibilities, right? I'm looking for a job today, so it's your turn to take care of Annie. Annie, always quick to catch on, ran to him cheerfully. Daddy, it's your turn today. His expression twisted in disbelief. Are you insane? How can I bring a child into the office? Do you have any idea what people will think? That's not my problem anymore, I replied, turning to leave. You'll figure it out, just like I had to. That evening, as I waited for a call back from the agency, my phone rang. Annie's name flashed on the screen, but when I picked up, her small voice was shaking with tears. Mommy, Daddy got in trouble at work. He said I was disturbing him and told me to wait outside, but he didn't come back. It's dark, and I'm scared. My heart dropped. He'd left her alone, outside his office. My little girl, frightened and abandoned. Every maternal instinct roared awake, but instead of running blindly to him, I stopped. No, this time I wouldn't cover up his cruelty. I dialed the police. Hello, officer. I'd like to report a case of child abandonment. Minutes later, police cars pulled up to Mike's office. The sight of officers escorting Annie safely inside while questioning him was a scene I'll never forget. Mike looked pale, stammering excuses about a misunderstanding, but I didn't let him off the hook. In front of his colleagues, I held up my phone, showing messages where I'd begged for living expenses. You think I'm lying? Ask him how long I had to beg for money while raising his child and caring for his mother. The room fell silent. Shame covered his face like a mask he couldn't take off. For once, the truth was out in the open, and he couldn't hide behind his pride anymore. Rehook. But that public humiliation was only the beginning. What happened next would destroy the illusion of our marriage forever. After that day at the police station, something in Mike changed. Or maybe he just realized I was no longer afraid. For years, I'd played the quiet, obedient wife. But now, I was the one holding the truth, and the world had finally seen it. At home, he tried to keep his temper, but the tension hung heavy in every room. You embarrassed me in front of everyone, he growled. If I lose my job, how do you plan to survive? I met his eyes calmly. Don't worry about me. I've already found a job. He laughed, full of mockery. A job? Doing what? Who'd hire you after all these years? I'll be a caregiver, I said simply. It's honest work, and unlike you, my employers will actually respect me. That silenced him. The next few days were a blur. I started my new job as a live-in caregiver for an elderly woman named Lucy, who had lost both her legs. The work was tough, but nothing I couldn't handle. After years of caring for Susan, I was practically a professional. Lucy appreciated me immediately, even giving me a small bonus for my dedication. For the first time in years, I slept peacefully. Annie stayed with me at the house, her laughter filling the rooms that once echoed with anger. Meanwhile, back at my old home, chaos reigned. My neighbour told me that Mike had tried to hire a cheap maid for Susan, but none could tolerate her temper for long. One quit after 2 days. Another stormed out mid-shift, screaming that she'd never seen such cruelty. Susan's voice had lost its power now. No one was left to listen. Weeks later, Mike came to see me, looking haggard and desperate. Mandy, please, I'm sorry. Mum's losing it, and I can't do this anymore. Come back, I'll pay you $4,000 a month, even $5,000. I smiled faintly. I make $7,000 now, Mike, and the best part, no one calls me useless. He stared at me, speechless. That was when Susan wheeled herself into the living room, trembling. You can't leave me like this. I need you. I looked at her, my voice steady. You needed me years ago, Susan, but instead of kindness, you gave me cruelty. I owe you nothing, Mike exploded. Then get out of my house. Don't expect a cent from me. I laughed softly. Keep your house. I've already built a life without you, and I walked away. Later, I heard the ending to their story, a tragic one. In one of her violent fits, Susan threw a mug from the balcony during an argument. It struck Mike by accident. He died instantly. When I learned the news, I didn't feel joy or vengeance, only peace. For years, I had begged for dignity. Now I had it. As I tucked Annie into bed that night, she whispered, "Mommy, are we free now?" I smiled, brushing her hair gently. "Yes, sweetheart," I said softly. "We're finally free." Rehook, final. And sometimes, freedom doesn't come from running away. It comes from standing up and refusing to kneel ever again.